Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now we all know that time travel is bullshit. I mean, if it were possible, then people from the future would travel back to the now and tell us it's possible, surely. Anyway, if you could grab a blue phone box or get your car to go 88 miles per hour and travel back to any historical event, where would you go? Here's our ever-reliable fact hunter, Neil, with 10 time-hopping facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So here we go. Turkeys were once worshipped as gods in the 300 BC by the Mayans. Once upon a time, the famous conqueror Napoleon Bonaparte was attacked by bunnies. The emperor requested that a rabbit hunt be arranged for himself and his men. His chief of staff set it up and had men round up reportedly 3,000 rabbits for the occasion. When released, the bunnies attacked the men. The Titanic's owner never said it was unsinkable, contrary to popular belief that he did. Cleopatra wasn't Egyptian like we all thought. She was in fact Greek. President Richard Nixon was a very accomplished musician. He played 5 instruments in total: piano, saxophone, clarinet, accordion, and violin. President Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Before the 16th president took office, Lincoln was declared a wrestling champion. The 6'4" president had only one loss amongst his 300 contests. Cars weren't invented in the USA. They were invented in Europe by Carl Benz and Emil Levasseur. And Columbus didn't actually discover America. That went to Leif Erikson, who landed on American shores during the 10th century. And Henry VIII introduced a beer tax. The cost of the tax depended on the social status of the man with the beard.
Ooh.
And Secret Service agents in the First World War would use semen as invisible ink.
Of course they did.
Likely story.
Yeah, and of course you'd find that
It's
fact,
just
Neil.
it's for invisible ink. It's for invisible ink.
I swear it is.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. That's all they are.
So welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast. We're here with our fact hunter, Neil. Hello, Neil.
Hello, Pav. How are you?
Oh, very well. And we are joined by Producer Extraordinaire, the one and only, not that one, Amanda Redman. Yay!
Hello. Oh God, it's so nice to see you guys. How
Back
exciting
again.
that you're starting this new venture together. I think it's a beautiful thing.
It feels like a beautiful thing, and then Neil had to ruin it with a load of semen talk. I mean,
Like I said, I just bring the facts to the table.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger. I would like to go back to the first one as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever sort of watched videos that people have made, supposedly they're time travelers, and they've got their warnings. So I've watched a few of them on YouTube, and it's so weird that they've gone back to like 2016 and they didn't go, do you know what, in 4 years, guys, just you might have to stay at home, buy shares in Zoom. Do you know what I mean? They didn't sort of like it's like, well, thanks for the warning on this shit show, mate. And so so I think time travelers are just inherently very selfish people.
Exactly. And of course we've been through one of a major historical event, and they won't let's just dismiss them all straight away.
When dealing with my top 10 today, well, we're doing historical events that you'd visit if you had a time machine. Now, I went with the proviso that you can't actually change anything when you go back. I've done it where you are basically just a viewer. So it's almost like it's VR. You are being plopped into a into a situation, and you can't interact with anybody, you can't change the course of history. That's the way.
Right.
Now,
I mean, I've mainly done that, but I've there's a couple where I'm going back in order to do something. But,
to partake.
Okay.
But we'll obviously get to that. But I think, but for the most part, I'm just going to have a look. So yeah.
Okay then. Let's start with you, Amanda, and your number 10.
Okay, my number 10. Now, what does the name Guy Goma mean to you guys?
He's not the singer of Elbow, is he?
Goma. No.
Guy Goma. Now he I think it's a full 16 years ago now. Now he made television history really he's an icon. He was the gentleman who was ushered onto BBC News at lunchtime when he went for a job interview, and they asked him, obviously some researcher went down to reception and said, "Are you here for the interview?" And he probably said, "Yeah, I am," because he was. And then he got ushered in and he had makeup put on his face, and then he got popped in front of the cameras and asked all about Apple and their vision for the future, and he answered every single question absolutely fantastically. But the job interview that he went for was as to work in IT. He didn't get that job. So I want to go back and I want to give him a better job. And I want to give him the job as BBC correspondent for Apple. Or as he put it when he said that you can go to a super cafe and you can download the internet. That's what he said, and that was true. You could go to a super cafe, and I think that's an amazing word for way to name an internet cafe. How much more fun is that? I'm off to the super cafe. Yes, please.
Yeah.
So I would have given him
a cafe, it's a super cafe.
It's a super cafe. So, and he said you can go, you can do anything, and he's right about that. And he I don't think that they really noticed that because it was another guy called Guy as well. It should have been another bloke called Guy Cuny. Yes, I do know a lot about this because I do watch it, and also I'm Facebook friends with Guy Goma because when I was working on a radio show at Absolute a few years ago, we were obsessed with Guy Goma, and we actually wanted to write a biopic about his life, the event, because I think it would work as a feel-good film.
Yeah,
it would
like
work.
Eddie the Eagle kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I befriended him on Facebook because the presenter of this particular show was leaving, and I thought it'd be great if Guy gave us a message, but he accepted it too late. But I am still friends with him on Facebook, and just so you know, Guy Goma fans, his birthday is Boxing Day, because obviously it comes up on my Facebook.
There you go.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was one name I wasn't thinking I was going to be writing down tonight is Guy Goma. There you go. Right then, Neil, you're number 10.
Please don't judge me for this, but Caligula's emperor reign from 37 AD to 40.
Oh, blimey.
AD. Now, I don't want to partake for obvious reasons.
Back to semen again. Go on.
No, yeah. But I do want to go and see if they were really as wild, his parties and his dinners and everything, that they, history tells us they were. I'm intrigued to know if it's true or not. And that's why I want to go and look. And I can't partake because I don't want to change the course of history. So there you go.
But then again, Neil, you're quite happy just watching, aren't you? I mean,
sometimes.
I was going to say that just looking doesn't make it sound, any more innocent.
I'll be peeping behind a curtain like that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm intrigued to know whether they were as out there as they say they were, or whether it was just complete hokum and normal everyday affair. I
think that'll go with any of the far away historic events, isn't it? I think a lot of it, the majority of mine that are in real past history, you basically think of whatever movie has been made about it. So that's where you draw your references from, and that's where I would be fascinated in regards to that. So you wouldn't want to be Caligula then. You just
No,
wanna,
not at all. Oh God, no.
no,
Oh, Christ,
you
no.
just want to
I just want to be that voyeur.
again. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number 10, I'm going back to 2500 BC and Stonehenge.
I also have this on my list as well.
Okay, what number have you got it on your list?
I have it on my list as 9.
Number 9. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. We went to Stonehenge earlier this year or late last year, and it's one of those things where I wish at that moment I had a time machine that I could have gone back, because again they have an idea of how it was built and how the massive stones were transported, but just thinking of those people in those days when they wake up thinking, Jesus Christ, we've got to move these goddamn stones, how are we going to do it? It fascinates me, in the fact that just a simple structure like that has so much history and so much, but like going back thousands of years, not just, you look at where we live, we have a church that was built in 1400. I know that because I was in the play at school called 1400 about the building of the church. Always struck me.
What did you play? What was your part?
He was the church.
I was a peasant. No, I was a
Oh.
peasant. Yeah, where I had to wear my mum's pixie boots because I didn't have any of my own, and they were too small.
You didn't have your peasant shoes handy.
I didn't have my normal peasant shoes handy. I was only, I don't know how old I was, 11, 12, 13 maybe, and it was a written by the people, the music teacher in Cirencester.
Nice.
All about, it was terrible. Done at the church, actually done at the church. It was.
I think that sounds absolutely brilliant, by the way.
I'd love to see the pictures.
Yeah,
there aren't any pictures. No.
Yeah, you say that. You say that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just one of those places that is steeped in history, and not just the surrounding areas where a lot of the burial, I can't remember what they're called, but the burial grounds are around there as well. It's a fascinating place. So it's your number 9 then, Amanda.
And it's I'm from that part of the world originally. My hometown is not too far away. It's a place called Warminster. So it's a stone's throw. It's a stone's throw away, guys, from Stonehenge. So I grew up just having them kind of just there, always on journeys home and things like that. So they were just always kind of like, in the middle of that plain. And I think I just want to go back as well, just to go, guys, okay, it was a clock and it looked like this. Here's a photo, just because of, because there were more stones as well. And there was a few more stones than the ones that are there today. Obviously, some of them have fallen over. And also, but just up a few meters up the plain, you've got Woodhenge. Now, have you been to Woodhenge? Did you go there on your visit?
No.
So it's not as impressive because there's none of the wood left. So,
Right.
it was the same structure near enough, but made of wood. And all they've got now are just literally just a few posts going, there was a bit of wood there. There was some there as well, a bit of a log there. And I think they could make a bit more effort and recreate it properly, but they probably don't know what it looked like.
No.
They've just got some evidence that there being a wooden structure there that emulates what was happening at Stonehenge. So I kind of think that maybe you'd have a practice run first, wouldn't you? Probably go, let's do it out of wood first, and then we'll see if we're going to lug these big stones from Wales, because they're a long way. So
oh my goodness,
probably do that first. So I think I'd like to see Woodhenge in all its glory. And I'd like to go back to see exactly how you say, as you said, Pav, to see how they got the stones there, what it was used for, what it looked like, just so I can just put all of the chatter to it to rest and just go, guys, this is how it was, this is how it was done. Let's move on.
Yeah, completely agree. Right, and Neil, you're number 9.
Go to 9th of February 1961 to see the Beatles' first legendary performance at the Cavern. I'd love to have seen this and just be there. And anybody who likes the Beatles or loves popular music probably would feel the same. But yeah, I think so.
I think that would be epic.
I think the cavern is one of those places that I have in my mind as this magical place.
Yeah.
But then when have you obviously been to the museum?
No, I've never been, never done it yet.
In the main the Beatles museum, they've got like I think a life-size recreation of the cavern, and it is tiny.
Yeah.
It is absolute. When you think you would have had a 4-piece band in there and people, it would have been. I just think it would have stunk. It would have been so smelly with all those horrible little teenagers there. With all, it just would have been terrible.
Would you not have enjoyed to have seen that iconic performance though?
Oh, it would have been amazing, but you wouldn't have known it was an iconic performance at the time, would you? That's the thing.
Well, no, but that's why I'm going back to watch it. Because
weren't they
isn't it?
weren't they on at lunchtimes? Weren't they kind of lunchtime gigs as well? Weren't they? Because people said that they used to go off on their lunch breaks from school and go to the Cavern Club, and I think Cilla Black would have been there. Because Cilla Black was obviously from the early days as well, wasn't she? And you'd have had I think you'd have had a bit of a crossover, like with people like Jerry and the Pacemakers and things like that as well. You'd have had to have kind of, and I've seen them live. I had to go and see them at Butlins with my parents, like in the 80s. So and so I think you'd have had to kind of go through some other acts that maybe wouldn't have excited you as much, maybe. But
yeah,
it still would have been amazing, though. Yeah,
I mean, to be there, to have actually been there, would it have been as an iconic performance? It probably just would have been a performance, wouldn't it? When you were there and just said, "Oh, they were very good." But it was pre-Ringo Starr as well, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's also weird because you look at you go down the street where the actual cavern is, and the cavern of today is over it's just like a pathway. It's like an alleyway, and the original cavern that the Beatles would have played in is over the alleyway, the opposite side where the cavern of today is.
Right.
But you walk down there, and you transport yourself back to what it must have been like in the early 60s, how much of a hive of excitement it would have been, because like you say, Jerry and the Pacemakers were massive in the day.
Yeah, they were.
I think they were the first band to get 3 number ones for their first 3 songs.
Wow.
Which I think Frankie Goes to Hollywood did follow them.
Yeah, didn't they?
But yeah, so I can totally understand.
Yeah, because I mean, modern music, you were seeing it change. They were seeing modern music change. Some people will argue not for the best, but I certainly think it was.
But it's weird you say that, Neil, because my number 9 is the 30th of January 1969, the Beatles rooftop concert at Applecore, 3 Savile Row, London. So,
I nearly picked that myself, actually. But yeah, that's what an amazing day that would have been. Yeah.
I mean, imagine you're just walking to work with your bowler hat on and your umbrella, and I say, what's that up there? Oh, it's those long-haired oiks. What are they doing up there? Making noise. Damn you. I can imagine if you were just like sat on that rooftop or sat in the office block over the way, and all of a sudden the Beatles pop up and are playing on the top of their roof. It must have been just unimaginable to see them, because they'd stopped playing live at this point, hadn't they, for a good few years. So the fact, and I can't wait to see that Peter Jackson film that he's got coming out of all of the like found footage of them recording. It was the Get Back.
Let It Be, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's called Get Back, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. It's the Let It Be album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it not the original film they did, and he's got all of that and redoing it all?
When he's found that it was like 60 hours of
really
footage. Yeah.
Wow.
And they're obviously making it, upscaling it to 4K and making the sound amazing. Just the trailer that you showed, it was like it was yesterday, but it shows them like without how you haven't seen it before, where they're all laughing and joking, and John Lennon like playing around. And I just love those kind of things, because you've seen the photographs so many times, and then when it's the same as like when you see Elvis backstage, or when he's just messing about with people, that they are human beings and they like having a laugh. It's not just all about being on the stage or whatever. So
not being a rock star, it's the human being sort of behind all of that, and behind the performance.
And the Beatles, there'll be times when they're arguing, and I love seeing that sort of stuff as well, because it wasn't always playing safe with any band or any artist. There's always that negativity, or sort of just that little bit of an angle where they've got that frustration or whatever. I can't wait. So yeah, that's my number 9. Amanda, you're number 8.
Okay, my number 8. We're still on the music vibe here. I'm
Cool.
going to go back to an event in my lifetime, just because I'd like to enjoy it again. It was Glastonbury 1993 when Pulp headlined. And they did it because the Stone Roses had to pull out because one of them broke their leg.
That's right.
Should know which one, but I can't remember now. Now, I was the only person, I think, that was thrilled that had happened, because Pulp were my band of the 90s. I was obsessed with them. I just thought they were just amazing. And so then when they had the hit with Common People, and when I was already going to Glastonbury, and then when they were suddenly headlining it, it was just epic. And I think I was there were several reasons why I can't remember it fully, but I think also I was just sort of so fully sort of like in awe, and just thought the whole thing was so incredible that I probably didn't take it in as much. So I would really like to go back and just watch that again, and just be sort of a little bit, being a bit older, just sort of being on the sidelines a bit without needing to be in the middle of it all. I don't know, just kind of just soak it up a little bit more. I think, yeah.
So when they hit big, did you feel a little bit sad in the fact that like your band was being shared now with like the whole world?
Weirdly, no, I didn't, because it just felt like such a groovy time. It just sort of felt like I was vindicated, really, for good music that I liked being sort of popular and mainstream. I liked switching on Radio 1 and hearing the music that I liked. I enjoyed that. I liked it being a part of the popular culture.
Yeah.
I still always like bands that, we're not going to ever be appearing, on main stages and things like that. But I really enjoyed the 90s for that. I really enjoyed the fact that there was just so much just good music at the forefront of everything. And not just Britpop and dance music as well, rave and all of that. It just was such an exciting time for music, and there was just so much amazing stuff around. And it just, again, I think that all of that kind of changed the course of music forever as well. So I just really like to go back and have a look at that.
Nice. Have you ever met Jarvis Cocker or any of them?
I have met many celebrities, and I've never met Jarvis Cocker, and I think I would lose my shit a little bit. I don't. Oh, yeah. There's certain people that I sort of think, no, I probably shouldn't meet that person. Yeah. I think Neil's
just saying that because he has met Jarvis.
Yeah, here we go. So go on, tell me.
The most bizarre place you probably imagine to meet him at an AC/DC concert.
Really?
Yeah. I've got the photograph on my phone, and he chatted with his wife or girlfriend, and she insisted that she take the picture and everything. And he was such a gentleman. He was amazing. So I would honestly say meet him, because he was such a legend and so giving.
Well, my friend met him when he was a waiter in a restaurant, and Jarvis was not rude or anything like that at all. I would have been devastated if I'd have heard that he's rude to waiting staff, because that's, like you say, he's a gentleman. But I think my friend, he's Australian, probably got his back up anyway. He's like one of those sort of that can be a little bit sarcastic, and he asked for it. I think he'd been a bit sarcastic towards him as a waiter, and asked for it. And my friend's name's Lachlan, and he asked for his autograph at the end. And he said "to Ladyland," which I just thought was brilliant. And I can't remember. And he put something really sarcastic after that, and I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, I just think that I would probably. I don't know. I just probably just start I don't know, just going on about Glastonbury 1993 or whatever.
But like I say, he was very giving. I mean, I must have chatted to him for about 20 minutes, I think.
Really?
Yeah. And then obviously he got on his motorbike with his moped, I should say, with his wife or girlfriend.
I was going to say, I can't imagine him on a motorbike.
No, a moped. The two of them got off and shot off, and it was amazing. But yeah, he'd been to an AC/DC concert.
Wow.
Where I was at as well. Very bizarre.
A man of many surprises, both you and Jarvis Cocker.
Yeah. Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Right then, Neil, you're number 8.
The turn of the 1900s in Detroit, USA, to see Harry Houdini live.
Oh.
I just want to see if this man is as mystic as the books tell you and the TV tells you and everything. You know, they still say that he did tricks or illusions that people still can't work out to this day. I find it fascinating. I don't know about you guys, those sort of
I don't think he wasn't a particularly mystic, was he? Because he spent a lot of his time trying to prove a lot of these psychics and mystics were false.
The way, I mean,
he was a magician, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's some of the stuff that he performed to me would have been mystic to watch. You know,
did he ever do anything with Niagara Falls? Was he did he ever do anything like?
Wasn't he one of the barrels?
I think he was one of the barrels, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a, I think, you know, stunts like that, the David Blaine of his day, although I don't think David Blaine really holds a candle, if I'm honest.
He does, doesn't he? David Blaine says that, you know, he tries to emulate and be like Harry Houdini. He does that now trick where he can swallow live animals like fish, keep them down in his wherever gullet somewhere and regurgitate those live things. Well, that was a Houdini trick.
Right.
And David Blaine has openly talked that it's taken him years to be able to do it.
Just think of the mess of all the attempts. It just doesn't bear thinking about. Doesn't it, like practicing that
and everything. But those is, you know, the way he used to escape from the those chains and all sorts of things and safes and everything. Allegedly, that he would even encourage the safe makers to bring the safes to the show, and he would get in there without pre-checking it and still get out.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
And isn't it right? He died from a sucker punch, didn't he? Apparently.
Well, some people say he got peritonitis, which is a stomach complaint. Some people said it was from that because he could take cannibal, a bit like Homer Simpson, into the stomach, and things like that. But they don't know whether it was the punch that killed it or whether it was an underlying thing anyway. So it's a bit two schools of thought on that.
Oh, right, okay. But if you were there, look, you'd be able to find out.
You'd be able to tell us,
You'd be able to tell us. Right, my number 8 is the 14th of October, 1066, the Battle of Hastings. I just want to be in the middle of a medieval battle.
Right.
And see if it is like Game of Thrones or if it is... I just want to see what it's like for real.
Are you squeamish?
No, not particularly. I mean, things like you watch Braveheart or Game of Thrones or any of those kind of movies, it is just a mess, you know, Gladiator and everything, and heads are being lopped off. And I know that I listened to a podcast ages ago, and they were saying that a lot of the time you would be fighting against people from your own side because everybody would get muddy. You wouldn't realize who was fighting who, and you know, you'd end up knocking off the arm of your friend or something. But you could. It's just because it's been in movies and TV for so long, I would just love to know what it had been, how close that is to an actual full-on balls-out battle, and just what it would have been. I can imagine it would have been horrendous and scary, and you know, there would have been things flying about everywhere. But
well, a lot of the time they say that when they hacked with the sword, they never ever went right through. So it was a lot of
their swords would have been fairly blunt as well. Really, I mean, it's like the way that they weren't made in a factory to certain, you know, standards, and you know, they're just kind of fashioned and sharpened on a rock a bit, and then, you know, just like if you've been hacking away for a couple of hours, it's gonna lose its blunt edge, isn't it? I mean, I nearly picked that myself because of the Bayeux tapestry, just to see how true the depiction was on the Bayeux tapestry, and just how that became as well, because it's a bit like all you men have all gone and killed each other, we're just gonna do some sewing about it. Just to show you what silly boys you are.
It's like photography of the time, isn't it? You got all these women on the side of the battle trying to sew as quickly as they can. Just stay there. Just hold it like that.
Well, King Harold, I was going to say they caught King Harold's arrow to the eye very well.
Yeah, but isn't it that's supposed that didn't happen or something? That's a myth. But
Pav would be able to tell us.
Pav would be able to tell us. He'd be able to let us know.
I have no idea. I must admit, I didn't look into that. I mean, again, another podcast I was listening to, they were saying in regards to what happens the actual event to what happens in history, it gets passed down so many times and so many times. Even if it's written down in history, people will elaborate, people will add little bits, people will, do you know what I mean? It's even if you go back to, it's like if I, well, like as you said about pulp, there may be things that you might remember from that day. There may be things that, like that Mandela effect, where you might add a few little things in from other gigs that never actually happened on that day. And I think if you go back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, people will add little bits. And that's why I think it's fascinating if you could go back to see exactly, like the Bayeux Tapestry, how accurate is that to what actually happened on that day. I don't think that goes with any of the historical events, but yeah, that's just
I would
a
also,
battle.
just as a little add-on, if I could go back to another point in my life, it would probably be visiting the Bayeux Tapestry when I was on a school trip to Fleur on the French exchange, because Worms is twinned with Fleur, and so the Normandy beaches are very close to that. And just walked through the Bayeux Tapestry like a bunch of little pricks going, yeah, right. Just walked around it. Idiots.
Yeah.
Why bother funding trips for kids like that? No, take me now.
Yeah.
And I will look at every single detail and really appreciate that. But no, absolute moron. Bunch of morons walking through, going, yeah, all right, very nice. And it's massive as well. It's huge.
Yeah, and every single stitch of that is a piece of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
History's wasted on me.
Indeed. You're number 7.
To go back to the Californian gold rush.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I think that, I mean, when I look at, there's certain things that I haven't sort of gone with, because I think, it would have been horrible to have been a woman there. But hey, that goes to quite recent history as well. Like, I think, that wouldn't have enjoyed that, being a female in that situation. But if I could have been a total voyeur and not have to kind of get involved at all, I think just to kind of watch that time, and also if I was going to get involved, to find a shitload of gold so that maybe I could pass it on to myself. And so, but I just think it would be an absolutely fascinating time, because America, it was the Wild West, and America was not, and when you look at UK history to American history, it's obviously so recent, but it's incredible to me that a country like that is the world leader of a world leader literally sprang up kind of overnight, really.
Yeah. I would not that I want other people to go and listen to other podcasts apart from this one, but I would thoroughly recommend a short history of, narrated by Paul McGann, and there is an episode specifically about the California Gold Rush.
Wow.
And I think the two guys that sort of started it off were the two guys that made no money out of it whatsoever. It is fascinating. It is fascinating. So one guy that found the first piece of gold worked for another guy, and they sort of went off and told people about it, and then everybody came along, and the people that made the money were the people that sold pickaxes, shovels, buckets. They were the people that made a shitload of money, and then went off and bought property in San Francisco and places like that.
Amazing.
It's a fascinating listen. It really is. So I would recommend that if you.
Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise did quite well out of it, didn't they?
Well, they did. They did.
Did I watch the entirety of that film, or did I go, "Oh, this is quite depressing," and switch off? I think it was the latter.
Yeah, I think it was the accents. Well. The accents.
Yeah. I thought, oh, this is going to be ongoing. How long does this go on for? Quite a while. Let's switch it off.
Yeah, it was one of those. About 2 weeks.
It was an epic. Yeah. It was an epic. Right, Neil, you're number 7.
Well, I just want to go back to 2500 BC and see the pyramids being built. The same reason as you did with Stonehenge.
Yeah,
how the frick did they do it?
Yeah,
that's my number 3. That's my number 3.
I mean, I've never been to visit them in real life, but I've watched plenty of, unearthing and entombing of them and all those sort of documentaries, and just found it fascinating. And to see has anybody seen them in the flesh? Has anybody been?
Unfortunately, no. I'd love it. It's on the list though. I'd love to.
Everybody I've spoken to that's been has said it's so impressive to see.
Really,
it really is impressive to see. So yeah, I'd like to go to see how they really did torture those slaves into building that.
I think that's another, because again, I sort of thought of that, and then it is just like that thing of, because another thing that I don't know if you want me to, but something I nearly put down was I really would have liked to have gone to see a real life like hanging.
Yeah. No, I know
and it's just
mean.
like, then when I think about it, I think you
I know
wouldn't.
what
You'd be
you mean.
scarred for the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
but the same thing with the pyramids. I'm just like, oh, it'd be amazing, but wow, just the brutality of like
Exactly.
of how that was formed.
Very close to putting like going to a guillotining. Like in
France in the Revolution.
Yeah, families used to go with their picnics to watch.
Yeah.
And I will say that a lot of my events seem to go with Carry On films for some reason.
I wonder why.
I've just noticed that. With number 7, I want to go 66 million years ago, just to walk around and see the dinosaurs.
Lovely.
I've got that at number 5.
You've got that number 5, have you?
Yeah.
I think it's just right from being a kid. When they had prize giving at school, and I can't remember what I won it for. Achievement for something, probably Pixie Boots. This was in the junior school, and I won a book on dinosaurs, and it was something I treasured. And then my mum and dad actually painted dinosaurs on my bedroom wall. Actually, it was fantastic. It was so good. But I loved dinosaurs. I think just again, a lot of it is you've envisioned because of things like Jurassic Park, and so that is your vision of what a dinosaur is. And it would just be amazing to sort of just see what real dinosaurs look like and how they acted and
how they sounded as well, because they can only guess what the noises were that they made. When I was a kid, there was this on HTV West News, there was an item that a dinosaur footprint had been found, and I think I would have been about 6. Hopefully I was slightly younger, actually, because maybe this is a bit bad for a 6-year-old to think, but I was really freaked out, and I was convinced that they'd found the footprint because there was a dinosaur walking around. And when I went upstairs to my room, I shut the curtains because I was convinced that a dinosaur's eye was just going to appear at the window. And so then I think I carried that with me for a few days until I had to sort of say, I'm really worried about this. My mum was like, they've just found the dinosaur's been dead for millions of years. They just found the footprint of the dinosaur. The dinosaur is dead, Amanda. The dinosaur is dead. But I know what you mean. Just sort of like see how they interacted with each other as well.
And exactly to see whether they looked like Pav said, we see the bones and you imagine, and they've tried to recreate, but did they really look like that? Were they those colors? I mean,
were they pink?
Barney might have got it right. They might have all been purple,
Yeah.
And also you'd want to go back with Doug McClure, wouldn't you? He'd get you
absolutely.
Yeah, he's the one that would rescue you there.
Or Jeff Goldblum. Jeff
Oh no, he's too busy injured in the back of the wagon.
No, that's true. That's true. Okay then, Amanda, you're number 6.
Okay. We're back to music. I'm going the other way from the Beatles. I would like to go back and see the Rolling Stones in Hyde Park in 1969. I don't actually have the exact date here. I wasn't that thorough, sorry, but they played at Hyde Park 1969, and but they were very much, I mean, there was another gig they did, which is there's a fascinating film, which I think it's called Give Me Shelter, which is about the gig they did at the Speedway, and where
someone died.
That's why I wouldn't want to go back to that, because the whole thing was so brutal, because the Hells Angels did the security and hated all the hippies. But I don't know if you guys have seen the film, but it is incredible. It's incredible. I mean, it's just like it's bedlam, and but the way that they've got, it's such a well done film, because they have the town planning meetings where they're going, so how many kids are we expecting here? They think, think about 50,000, and there was just like close to 2 million or something, and it just because somebody, and then you actually see the person who died in the footage quite a lot. And so I wouldn't want to go back to that, but that was the gig that ended the 60s. That was the gig that ended the love peace era. That was what they was always heralded. But same year, Hyde Park, London. So it was just before the end of the 60s. But I'd have made a day of it. Obviously, I'd have been down Carnaby Street. I would have, just like been around Chelsea as well, because Chelsea was the swinging, that was the hit place of the 60s. And I would have loved to have seen the Rolling Stones in their heyday as well. I think I would have really, really loved to have been there and sort of soaked up the vibe of that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. Good year, 1969 as well.
Oh, is it? Where's that then?
Yeah. That's the year I was born. Yeah, 1969.
He was there.
He was there.
I was there, yeah. Yeah, we're going back to semen again now, aren't we? That's all I would have been. Okay, then, Neil, you're number 6. Sorry,
right, this date should resonate with you, especially, Pav. 22nd of November, 1963.
Okay.
JFK's assassination.
Right.
I want to know whether it was done alone. I want to see for myself, whether it was just the one shooter, or whether it was many and things like that, who was on the grassy knoll and all of that. Yeah, I want to see it. I've always been intrigued, and Oliver Stone's got to blame for that with his movie, which is a great movie, although a lot of it's now been proved to be factually incorrect, hasn't it? But yeah, it gets your mind thinking. And I'm not usually a great conspiracy theorist, but there's a couple of things that have happened in time that I really want to know the answer to, because logically it doesn't make sense. And especially the shooting of JFK doesn't make sense at all. So yeah,
I'm going to say more about it a little bit later on.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think that's one that I considered as well. But again, I was like, do I want to see somebody's brains getting blown out in front of me? Probably not. But if I was looking the other way, towards that grassy knoll, just to see if, because they say it's the grassy knoll, but who knows if there was anybody on that grassy knoll. So yeah, I think if I was looking the other way, I'd be with you.
And see whether you can look at the book store, the place. Lee Harvey Oswald, is whether you can see him up there or whether it's not. I just think it'd be fascinating to know.
We'll delve more into that a little bit later on.
We will.
Okay, my number 6 is Roman Carinum in 90 AD. So I want to be exactly where I am now, stood right here, but 90 AD, to find out what it would have been like living in this town when it was the second largest Roman town in Britain.
Yeah,
I think
and
that
at one stage was the capital of Britain.
At one stage was the capital of Britain. Yeah, I think I did a little bit of just looking around, and it was quite a fortified town when it first was built, if you like. And it would just be fascinating to see, because we know that we have a bull ring or an amphitheater. So we have the what do they call them?
Well, it's just basically hills, isn't it?
It's hills, but they call it something, don't they? The whoop-de-doops or something like that. I don't know.
I'd love to be there at the beginning of the whoop-de-doops, just to see how they were formed.
Yeah, but it's the place that like every family goes when it snows, because it's perfect for snowboarding and sledging and all that kind of stuff. I would think it would be fascinating to be able to be the place that we live and the place that I've lived all my life, and see what it was like when it was like the place in Roman Britain. That is my number 6. Right, Amanda, you're number 5.
Okay, my number 5, it's kind of a ballpark time, really. There's no specific day, really, but the suffragettes were really on the rampage and setting fire to blowing up post boxes and things like that. I would really like to go and watch just some of the acts that they did, and just clap and cheer and say thank you, and and just to kind of really sort of again, I mean, it's difficult, again, I'm being a voyeur, but it'd be difficult for me not to want to get involved in that. And but just see some of the marches, and just kind of get involved in the suffragette movement a bit.
Yeah, awesome.
Do you think that you would have been a trailblazer at that time, or do you think you would have been someone that would have just followed the path that they were setting?
I think it would have been very difficult because, like, I probably would have been in Warminster, so I don't know how much the suffragette movement would have been prolific then. That's something I really wished I'd been able to ask my great grandmother, but she died when I was 11. Just, you know, sort of before I knew anything like that. And she was born in 1901. So she, you know, it's kind of unbelievable to me that I've got a relative within living memory who didn't have the vote until she was 19. So it's just incredible to me, really. And or even it would have been later because women weren't given the vote. They were given the vote, but she wouldn't have been able to vote yet because she'd need to be 35.
Wow.
But it would have been, I think it would have been, I would have liked to have asked her about that, what she thought about it and whether she was behind it or not, because obviously I think you were almost sort of scared to kind of say that you're in support of that, really. Or maybe a lot of women weren't, because it was a scary prospect, because just being kind of the property of men, all of your, you know, you go from the property of your father to the property of your husband. If you don't get married, you're the property of another male relative. And just kind of, if you've not been given any sort of, you're not allowed to own property, you're not allowed a bank account, you're not allowed any of these things. So it just like would have been quite a scary prospect, I think, for a lot of women. And that's why there were some women who didn't want it to happen, who were vehemently against. Well, Queen Victoria herself was the ultimate queen. Well, Margaret Thatcher of her day, you know, wanted to be the queen bee, because you know, she didn't see a problem. She didn't think, you know, of course you don't love, you know, your head's on the money, you know, you're all like yeah, weird that, and everybody does what you say. But you know, even that, you know, even the head of state at the time, who was a woman, was anti-suffrage. So and I just think how frustrating that would have been as a woman to, that would have been, you know, you'd have probably had to keep it secret from the rest of your family if you were going to meetings, if you were dropping leaflets around, things like that. It had to be quite an underground movement. And then it got put on ice for many years as well. For the First World War, they agreed to stop with their stupid nonsense because there was a world war. So then you know, that set it back a few years. But I would have liked to have gone back to those the days sort of between 1900 and 1914 at some point, and just gone to see some of the things that they did and the achievements that they did from that as well. And like I said, just to thank them, saying thanks for allowing me to be able to do what the hell I want.
Yeah. And it's all the sort of things that you take for granted these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's stuff I think a lot of people would probably be good for them to go back and see that this is what you never had in like 100 years ago.
Only 100 years ago, and even less than that, because I think it was 1928 that women were given the full right to vote. So I think it was, you know, you got given the same voting rights as men in 1928. So it's not even 100 years ago that things have been the way that they are, and already it's been so vastly taken for granted. And you know, and I just want to go back and say thank you, and it wasn't all in vain. You know.
Absolutely right. Neil, your number 5 was dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
So my number 5, I want to go back to that lovely sunny day in 1966 at Wembley. Back when football was just about football. It wasn't about millions of pounds. It was just about, and the fact that England actually won something. I think it would have been, I think my dad said that he saw it on TV. To be there at that, when football was about that, it wasn't about, it was just about the passion of the game, you know, and about that the players were on a tenner a week or whatever it was, which is probably still good or whatever for the time, but it was all about playing the game. It wasn't anything to do with image rights or just any of the sort of bullshit that you get with football these days. I think it was just the pure version of the sport. You know, and I've watched that game quite a few times where it was like been on TV, and I used to have it on DVD, and you only remember obviously the goals and did the ball cross the line, and they think it's all over, and all of those like sound bites. But to watch the whole game and it does take you there a little bit. But I think the atmosphere must have been amazing on that particular day. So
because the crowds back then were nearly pitch side, weren't they, with no barriers?
And yeah, it was hardly seat. It was all standing, I think,
Yeah.
you know, or they were just all stood up anyway. 100,000 people there.
That's right.
All of the footballers having a cigarette.
Yeah.
Half
time, have a fag.
And a pint.
Yeah, and didn't a lot of them? I mean, I don't know about the England squad at that point, but I think a lot of players had other jobs as well. Like you said, they just kind of got paid.
Some of them. When they were talking during the Euros, when England got to the final, somebody was on a phone-in was saying that they went down. England got to the semi-final, so they went down to Wembley to see if they could get a ticket for the semi-final, and they just queued up, bought a ticket. I think they got like 2 tickets for £5 or whatever it was. And then they find out if there was any tickets for the final. They bought a ticket for the final on the same day. And as they walked around Wembley, Bobby Moore was just like leaning on the on Wembley, having a cigarette.
Wow.
And he went up and just spoke to Bobby Moore, and he's saying that you wouldn't do that these days. You can't. You wouldn't be able to get a beer for a £5, let alone a ticket for a game for a £5.
You can't get a beer for a pub for a £5 in a pub in London now. Let me tell you. So.
Exactly. So the fact that like they were accessible and they were the same as the fans, you know, they would bus to the game or walk to the game. You know, it was a completely different sport. It really was. But yeah, I think that would be one place that would be just amazing to go to. Right, Amanda, you're number 4.
My number 4, again, I think going back to sort of being a complete voyeur, I'd really like to walk around medieval London in 1666, but the day before the Great Fire.
Okay, yeah.
And just because the city, to see the old St. Paul's Cathedral would be incredible. I mean, I think it's incredible that it's always sort of been standing there, but also to see the Tower of London as well. It's just like that's there. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that I would recognize. I mean, London Bridge, even the location of it has moved a few times, kind of up and down the river a bit. But I would really like to see, because the configuration of the streets are more or less the same in the city, but I would like to sort of see, because obviously none of the structures exist, and I would just like to see whilst you go to other European cities, they still have a medieval part, at least, you know, they will still have a quarter of it, that, you know, the medieval quarter or whatever, but in London that all just was obliterated pretty much in that, you know, and I think the fire went on for 5 days, and just and I mean, obviously it would be, again, I'd be willing to kind of like just go, you might want to go to the well, yeah. But I mean, obviously, one thing that the Great Fire did do was did kill off the plague.
It did.
That had been, you know, but I think at that point as well, I mean, it was bad enough when we all thought the millennium bug was going to hit. I think, imagine living in 1666, you've got a plague. I mean, we think that this is bad, but all I've been doing is basically chatting to people as I am with you on Zoom and waiting for deliveries. But, you know, but there's an actual proper plague where people you will die if you get it. And you don't know how it's being transmitted. And and everything's raised the ground in front of you. You must have thought that the devil was literally stalking the earth. I mean, it's quite an incredible sort of thing to think about. But I would like to go back to just before that happened and just have a walk around London and just sort of have a look at the streets.
Or sit with Samuel Pepys in his window.
Yes, sit with Samuel Pepys in South Bank.
Yeah. And watch it all.
Yeah, and on the other side, he's in Southwark.
That's it.
Sit behind his glass.
It all. Yeah.
He sat behind a glass. Because he buried his Parmesan, wise man. I mean, you've got to. It was one thing. It was his Parmesan, and I forget what else, but just some other sort of.
Yeah, bird's eye view of it, and you could have sort of nicked some ideas off of him from his diary writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
go down to Pudding Lane and tell them to put the cigarette out. They just say,
Yeah.
just keep off that.
Just and
don't
also
put those in overnight.
blaming the maid as well. Like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, it was probably the master of the house, up to no
Of
good.
course it
But
was.
like, he was probably the one that left the ovens on or whatever. But yeah, let's blame the maid, shall we? I mean, that poor woman, she must have just felt absolutely just wretched after that. Yeah.
Oh dear me. Right then, Neil, you're number 4.
We'll take you back just over 2,000 years ago to Damascus and Jerusalem and have a little wander around and see if there really was a bloke called Jesus doing his thing. Because I'd like to come back and either prove or disprove this.
There we go, the David Blaine of the day.
Yeah. We don't know. Was he real or was he not? We can argue. I mean, I'm not a particularly religious person. I don't sort of believe in it. But I can't argue that there isn't anything, just like somebody can't argue to me that there is something. So we're on a absolute plateau of arguments there that nobody can decipher. So I would like to go back and say once and for all, yeah, he was a charlatan and he was a magician, or yes, he was the second coming.
I think you'd have seen about 20 Jesuses all stood on boxes, just talking, just saying shit.
Yeah.
Because a very popular name at the time. Wasn't, I think that blew my mind when I was a kid and realized that. I was like, it's a name.
Yeah.
It's not just this one person was called Jesus. It was like Jason. Just like name. So I think I'm just sort of thinking of Life of Brian scenarios. Really,
I was going to say he's
that's the
Messiah.
problem,
He's a very naughty boy.
Yeah.
But you must have been able. I mean, I don't know whether you find it intriguing, but I would find it very intriguing to see whether it was a real thing, or whether it wasn't.
Absolutely.
I've no doubt that there was somebody called Jesus that may well have gone around saying that he was the Son of God, but there must have been something about that particular person that meant he had followers. But there are people that mime to songs. Well, there are people that mime to songs that have got millions of followers on Twitter and TikTok. So it's just the TikTok of the day, I think.
He was the guy doing content every day for the views, but live on the street.
But I mean, look, I'm with you, Neil. I'm not a religious person, but I think it is the Twitter and the TikTok of the day.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You can't disprove either way.
No.
There's nothing you can do. So it's why I never engage into conversations with people about religion and things like that, because it's up to you. You believe what you want to believe and go and believe it.
Absolutely. But maybe in 2,000 years from now, they'll all be extolling the virtues of the guy that used to walk up and down Oxford Street saying that, the protein guy that said that protein was evil.
Yeah.
He was there for a good 20, 30 years with his placard, basically saying that protein wasn't doing us any good. So maybe in 2,000 years, I can't remember. I think his name was Paul. I don't know, but Paul the protein guy. Why not?
Paul the protein guy.
Paul the protein guy.
They write books on him.
Oh dear. Right. Number 4 for me is I want to go to the Colosseum in Rome.
You're a bloodthirsty.
Yeah, he's so bloodthirsty, isn't he?
I want to go and see like proper gladiators doing their stuff. I want to see.
Again, it was. It went through my mind, but carry on, Pav. See why you want to go and see it.
To me, it's the same sort of thing as like going to see Wembley in 1966. It's the equivalent of like ancient Rome. Of that's what people
more limbs flying around.
I know, but well, we were playing the Germans. I mean, that's what limbs are flying around. But I think it's that thing. It's what people went to for entertainment, and I think. It's a completely different time, a completely different world, but I just think I would love to go and see what it would have been like as entertainment.
Do you think you could literally stomach something like that as you are now? Do you really?
Of course, because it would be entertainment, wouldn't it? You wouldn't. I don't think people watching it would have classed it as real because you're not.
I know, but you would have. But you, like as a 21st century guy, I think that.
Oh, Amanda, that's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
Oh,
You
man.
very much peaked in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Oh well, that is true. Yeah, that is absolutely true.
But I think Neil's right. I think that if you go in with it, because that's one thing I was sort of thinking about. I think when I go with my soft 2021 head on and just go and see that, I don't know if I could stomach any of it.
I just yeah. Well, I think things like you always go back to things like Game of Thrones and that. I mean, that's quite gory. And how much different would it be if you were watching that, or if you were watching something? Because it's not like you're watching it up close; you're watching it from a distance. So it would be like watching it on a film or whatever. Only it's like it's surrounded.
Sure it would.
I don't know. Maybe I'm on my own for that one.
I was going to say, you can come back and tell me all about it. Don't worry about the photos.
Yeah.
I'd
Come
be
back
going
this
to the people-
quivering wreck. You're just being like completely white, shaking.
The people around me, I'll be going, this is nothing like Gladiator. This is absolutely rubbish. You're not seeing anything. Where's the tigers and all that? Okay, Amanda, you're number 3.
My number 3 is to go back to the D-Day celebrations in Trafalgar Square. Just kind of like, just see what that party was like. So I think that would have been, just the release of that would have just been incredible. Because again, a bit of me would really be fascinated with seeing the Blitz. I mean, I find it fascinating, just that whole era. But but rather than going to the terrifying bit, I was thinking maybe if I just sort of go to the sense of relief. I mean, relief on so many scales. It wasn't just about winning, was it? It was about a whole way of life. It really was, we're the goodies. For once we were the goodies, somebody else was the baddies. I mean, it's a very much more ambiguous, I think, from that point on. But I think just to go and see just the relief on ordinary people's faces, that they knew that was all over. I just think it would be brilliant.
I very nearly put World War II and events on my list. And then I thought to myself, why? Because both my grandfathers both fought in World War II. So I had a history lesson from the horse's mouth.
Right, yeah.
And it wasn't until my last grandfather, who died about 5 years ago, who was a rear gunner in one of the planes, for the most dangerous place, that he opened up and spoke about what he saw and the horrificness of it all, that he lost every single one of his friends on a plane and things like that, that made me realize. And that's why I thought to myself, no, I can't put World War II down.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's weird when you say about the sense of relief, because, and this is no way equating what we're going through now as the Second World War, but you can remember when we had that Freedom Day after the first long lockdown, and everybody was celebrating because we sort of got our freedom back. And you imagine how everybody felt relief at that point. The feeling there must have been on D-Day, the D-Day celebrations, must have been that times a million. With the fact that you're worrying that your house and your town or your city is going to get bombed and flattened, and it must have been horrendous, because it's not just the fact that the fight is hundreds or thousands of miles away. Every night the potential that a bomb is going to drop on you is there every single night. It must have
every
been
night, yeah.
horrendous.
And also just the threat that, I mean, they got us, the Nazis got as far as the Channel Islands, so it's just that the fact that the threat of invasion was over, that people were going to start coming home. And also you didn't have to do the blackout anymore, that you could take off the crosses from your windows, the tapes, things like that. You could just sort of start living life in it. I mean, it would have taken the adjustment after 4 years of that happening, or 6 years of that happening, would have just been unbelievable, really. I think it would have taken you a while. It's not like it would happen, or maybe it did for some people overnight, but I think that, it would be quite the, just sort of forgetting that, you don't need to, actually I can shine a torch, or I can, if I want, I can and just sort of I mean, rationing took I mean, my mum had a ration book when she was a baby, so it took rationing took years and years and years, you know, to, but at least it was the start of the, you know, you knew it was kind of the big, you know, the, was it the not the end of the beginning of the end, or, you know, yeah, so you knew that things were going to start to kind of get back to normal. And like you said, the threat of just like going to bed and not waking up, that being taken away, I think is, you know, pretty epic, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right then, Neil, you're number 3.
Another music one. I'd like to go to Woodstock, please, the original one, and just sit back with the rest of the hippies and watch the show.
Wasn't that 69 as well?
That was a 69, yeah.
Was it?
What a year. What a year that was.
It was. But yes, I've watched the film. I've seen everything about it. I just wish that sort of thing would happen again, but a peaceful one. When they tried to do it in 99, wasn't
99,
it?
Yeah, they tried to do it and it was a shit show, wasn't it?
Awful. But yeah, the original, just sit back, just enjoy the music and just enjoy the happiness. Everybody seems to be happy.
I'm sure they were.
In the air.
Must have been something in the air.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my number 3 was ancient Egypt, so we've covered that. Amanda, then you're number 2.
Well, my number 2 is, again, I want to change history here. So I want to go back. I can't remember what date it was. I can't remember what year it was. I think it might have been 2005, maybe, or might have been later than that. But I want to knock that bacon sandwich out of Ed Miliband's hand.
Okay.
Because that is the catalyst. Him eating that bacon sandwich and getting that photo is the catalyst for everything that's going on now. Yeah, that's it, really. I think that would have, I think genuinely we wouldn't have had a referendum. We wouldn't have the people, you know, pretending to run things that are running things now. At a certain point, COVID would have still happened, you know, that would have been so, but we wouldn't be living in a place where I mean, you know, not, I always get a bit funny talking about politics, but I really hate the government.
Yeah.
I really fucking hate them. They're the pits. They're the worst. And they wouldn't just be in charge now and just making the situations that we're in just so much worse by just complete lack of care, empathy, planning, you name it. All they care about is lining their pockets. And it's all thanks to Ed Miliband eating that bloody bacon sandwich in that weird way, because he was doing so well in the polls. It really looked like that he was gonna win. I wouldn't say that I'm a staunch Labour supporter, but I'm just whatever the Conservatives are. I will be the opposite. So if I could make that happen, then I would. Well, I don't even care if I'd get arrested for it, because I probably would have got arrested for it, and everybody would have misunderstood me, but I'd have known that I was on the right side.
Well,
I'd
pay for your bail, Amanda.
Thank you, Neil.
Do you think that that's where the start of like style over substance began?
I think so. I think it was always kind of, I think that started with the Blair era, really. You know,
he was like the golden boy, wasn't he, Tony Blair, when he came in? He was like,
yeah, I never trusted that man.
No, but in appearance, what he was like, oh, look at this young guy that's got like these new ideas, and it's new Labour, and it's cool Britannia, and it's all.
I hated all of that.
Yeah, it's all that whole thing, and then Ed Miliband came along and looked like Mr. Bean. And I
don't mind having Mr. Bean as the Prime Minister. I'd rather that than, you know, an absolute, you know, clown. It just like I don't.
Absolutely, yeah.
My Prime Minister doesn't have to be sexy, thank God, because we certainly don't have that in. You know, he's not even. Do you know he's not even hot, is he?
Well, he's not my type. I'll put it that
way.
If
he was if he was that would be something, would it? But God, you know, but yeah, I think the style of something, but I think that was really the point where it was kind of weird how public opinion could, it's like, well, he's incompetent, he can't even eat a sandwich, look at him.
Yeah.
But if they'd have seen me eating a sandwich, I wouldn't be allowed out on my own. I just, you know, it just.
Oh dear. Right then, Neil, you're number 2.
The moon landing. I would like to, well,
be on the moon.
Yeah, with them to make sure it happened. Again,
Oh,
it's
that was
the
in
second
1969. That was what a year.
God, what a year.
Why?
Was it? I
What
thought
a
that
year.
was. I thought that was a bit earlier. Was it in 69?
No,
Yeah, it was
1969.
69.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
so-
a month before I was born.
Whether I be in the control room at NASA or whether I be in a spacesuit myself bouncing around, I just want to know if it's. I'm pretty certain it's real, but again, it's one of those.
Why
things,
would you question whether it was real?
You've got to.
Why?
Because everybody does. Because there's all sorts of conspiracies. We're
You
not
said
gonna-
earlier on that you're not one for conspiracy.
Not one,
theories.
yeah, but so I want to come back and make sure and tell you, yes, it did happen.
Why wouldn't it have happened?
Why would it have happened?
Oh, because they wanted to go to the moon.
I believe it, but I want to see it firsthand.
I
do
know, but
believe it.
I do know what you mean. I fully support the theory that the Americans went to the moon.
Mm.
Fully, but I think that there's that argument because it was a race and they haven't been back.
Well,
that is
they said they
have.
didn't go back because there's nothing up there and there's no point spending all that money for nothing.
true.
But they have been back since the first time they went to the moon.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like Paul McGann should give us a bit of money for this, but they do on the short history of the space race, they do one and the moon landing. And again, there's a lot of info there in regards to why there's so many people involved.
But also,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If
It would have to be a
hadn't
very
happened-
big meeting, wouldn't it?
yeah,
If it
of course.
hadn't happened, someone would have said by now. And that,
But
and-
also,
and-
it's such a historical event. I would like to see it firsthand.
no, that's fair enough.
You know, it's a
Yeah.
huge historical event, and
But
to be honest, I'd like to just see it. and
I know what
their
you, because I
opinion.
thought about this one. I know what you're saying, Neil. I would like to go back with the evidence to go, shut up, it happened.
Yeah.
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 And I can't see how they can't be. They've got the Hubble telescope that can see past our solar system. Surely there must be a telescope strong enough to see that flag on the moon.
Is it still there?
Well, all of the shit that they left there must still be there. No one's going
All
to go.
those golf balls, yeah.
Yeah, and the lunar, the LEM, whatever it is.
I don't know. I
the
mean,
LEM.
do they have any sort of weather system up there? Do they have anything like that? Does the dust
Bit of
blow
wind,
over it all?
bit of wind, I think.
Bit of wind.
Yeah.
It's like a Russ Abbott song, and there's no atmosphere.
The antithesis of the Russ Abbott song.
Oh, we just
the
got to number
answer
two.
to the
for-
Russ Abbott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just got to
Exactly.
Pav's number 2.
No, my number 2 is straight back into Carry On films. The Court of Henry VIII. I would
Oh,
love,
yes.
I would love to have spent just a day. I find out. I obviously listened to a load of podcasts. This was a different podcast where they spoke about Henry VIII, and apparently, for the majority of his life, he was a wonderful, good-looking king. He was athletic, and then he had an
A
accident.
riding accident. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden became this like 400-pound
Utter shit.
monster,
Yeah.
absolute monster. That's the one I want to see. I want to see what it would have been like sat in the court of King Henry VIII when he was when he was a big shit. And I want to see what it would have been like, and how close Sid James got to his portrayal of Henry VIII.
I think he got the laugh about right. I think
Yeah.
Henry VIII probably went.
But also, I'd like to see Pav in a big ruff.
I've almost
In his
got a
mum's
big
pixie
ruff.
boots. Yeah.
Yeah, with his mum's pixie boots.
If I grow my beard out a bit more and just comb the house, I would have a ruff. Right. So, Amanda, if you want to count down your 10 to 2.
Okay, so do you want me to say the numbers as well?
Yeah,
I mean, that
say
would
the
be
numbers as
helpful,
well.
wouldn't
Let's-
it?
yeah.
Of course it would, Amanda. Yeah. Okay, at number 10, Goma. At number 9, The Building of Stonehenge. At number 8, Seeing Pulp at Glastonbury, 1993. Number 7, The California Gold Rush. Number 6, The Rolling Stones, Hyde Park in 1969. And number 5, just generally being with the suffragettes. At number 4, A Walk Around Medieval London, the day before the Great Fire. Number 3, the D-Day celebrations in London, Trafalgar Square. Number 2, Ed Miliband's Bacon Sandwich.
Okay. Leave your number 1 just for a sec. Neil, give us your 10 to 2.
So number 10, Caligula's Emperor Reign and his shindigs that he had. Number 9, 9th of February, to see the Beatles' first legendary performance at the Cavern. Number 8, to see Harry Houdini perform live. Number 7, the pyramids being built. Then we go to number 6, JFK's assassination. Number 5 is dinosaurs, Jurassic period. And then number 4 is Jesus. Number 3, Woodstock, the original one. And number 2, the moon landing.
Okay, and mine is number 10, the building of Stonehenge. Number 9, the Beatles rooftop concert in 1969. Number 8, right slap bang in the middle of the Battle of Hastings, 1066. Number 7, 66 million years ago with the dinosaurs. Number 6, Roman Corinium in 90 AD. Number 5, the World Cup final at Wembley in 1966. Number 4, the Colosseum in Rome, 80 AD. Number 3, ancient Egypt and the pyramids. Number 2, the court of Henry VIII.
You're quite a bloodthirsty guy, pal.
Isn't he?
Blame carry on.
Yeah, those bloodthirsty movies.
I know. Okay, Amanda, you're number 1.
So my number 1, I'd like to go back to November 1989 to Berlin, to the fall of the Berlin Wall, but specifically to see the Hof, when the Hof sang, when the Hof did an impromptu concert at the fall of the Berlin Wall. I just think, we're seeing the end. I mean, the world just felt like it was finally getting its shit together. It felt like we were finally going to all agree on stuff. It felt like, the communism hadn't worked, but hey, capitalism's great. Do join in. What could possibly go wrong? And the Hof says it's fine. Come on. So yeah, I think just seeing David Hasselhoff singing. I can't remember the song. It was something like "Break to Freedom" or something like that.
Freedom, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, good on him. And but yeah, just seeing the excitement of the crowd. Because I think a lot of the excitement was for David Hasselhoff as well. And I think that blew my mind as well. Just when I found out when we all found out what a massive star he was in Germany.
Huge in Germany.
Yeah.
They should have made his performance more interesting and started demolishing the wall as he was performing on top, and he had to run along it quickly.
Yes, they did. Yes,
that's what they should have done.
That would have been. Yeah, that would have really put an edge on his performance. Maybe sing a bit quicker. But I think that
obviously he'd have been running in slow motion like he is in
or he'd have had a car pick him up.
Yeah. Very good, Amanda. That's a good one. Neil, what's your top spot?
So let's go back to 1977 and the release of Star Wars, especially at the Chinese theatre. I would like to be there in the audience, please. Simple as, no explanation required. I just want to be there on the day, the very first premiere.
But that's with the knowledge that you've got now.
Well, of course, that's why I'm going back.
All right, Jesus Christ, man.
Well, there'd be no point, would there? If you had no knowledge of it, I was... Well, okay, let's go that
because
way.
The thing is, because then you've got the for the first time. That's what I mean.
All right, yeah, no, I see what you mean. It would be nice to have experienced the movie for the very first time.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah,
and get caught up in that thing initially, just that initial buzz and going, "Oh my god, this is amazing," rather than going, "Yeah, I know."
Exactly.
Yeah. But you don't. I feel that you'd still get caught up in that buzz going back at what you know now of the movies. But you still go back and just the excitement. I'd be well up for all.
I would love to have that moment of when the lights go down and then it goes duh, or the whole fanfare. You got the 20th Century Fox fanfare, and then there's the blanket of stars, and then that massive ship come flying over your head. To be able to experience that for the first time again, I think would be worth having your mind wiped.
Yeah.
As long as you can have the mind put back.
You want it back, please. Yeah,
please. Just for all my other memories that I've had. But yeah, I mean, I never even put that in my top 10 just because I think it would need to be that I've gone there without knowledge of what the movie was, rather than going as I am back there.
Yeah,
It'd be
but
great,
still
it'd
like
be
to
great.
experience it all.
It'd be great to experience that night and
To
sort of
see the
saying
young
and
stars
thinking to everybody, this is going to go massive. You're going to see
Yeah.
this film like
Yeah,
100
just seeing
times.
everybody arriving, like you
You could
say,
put
you
some
know.
wages on back then.
Wow, yeah, like Harry, you know, seeing like, you know, Carrie Fisher, Harrison
Mm.
Ford, and just seeing them just sort of, you know, rocking up, and then that realization, the look on their faces must have been quite like, oh
that
my God, I think we're going to be really famous.
Yeah.
The start
Exactly.
of their infamy.
Exactly.
Everybody
Right.
smoking, watching the film as
I know.
well,
Oh,
because
that is, yeah. That'd be something.
everybody's
Going
sitting
back
there
to
with it,
that.
you know, if you weren't, you know, if you weren't smoking, what was wrong with you?
I
Yeah.
just get one
Yeah.
of those big cigars, you know, like Cape Fear, and just sit and laugh all the way through it, just to put my own spin on it.
Oh dear. Right, my number one was mentioned by Neil earlier on, is number 6, and I want to be slap bang in the middle of Dealey Plaza in Dallas, November the 22nd, 1963, at 12:01, whatever it was. I have been fascinated with the Kennedy assassination for years. Before the JFK movie, I had books. It was the fact of seeing that Zapruder film, and the fact that I think that was probably in my life the first time I saw an actual person like dying. That shot, and it was fascinating. It was fascinating with the fact that you couldn't quite make out what it was.
Yeah.
The haunting picture of Jackie Kennedy sort of climbing on the back of the limousine for whatever reason, whether it was to try and get out or grabbing pieces of her husband's brain or whatever they said it was. And then reading some of the books, and where every book, I think I read like 4 or 5 books in the space of a year, and I actually read the books, Neil, which is amazing.
Oh, well done.
No pictures in it or nothing. I just read the book, but every single one had a different theory of what happened that day. And when the JFK movie came, because I'm a big, massive Kevin Costner fan, I lapped it up. But then when you find out behind the movie just the kind of strokes that Oliver Stone made, which were very broad strokes and had no basis in facts, or he amalgamated 2 or 3 characters to
quite
make
irresponsible, really, isn't it? Because I think people, I mean, there's artistic license, but I think you're right that people will watch that and think, oh, that's what happens.
That's exactly what I thought, because I was a Kevin Costner fan. I felt, well, I'm going to believe everything that Kevin Costner says in this. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a Kevin Costner. And then when you look back and you look into some of the facts, some of it was true, some of it was very misleading, especially some of the court stuff about the magic bullet, where he was in the room, and had 2 of his aides sat in the courtroom saying, well, the bullet would have gone like this, and then like that, and like this. But they weren't even sat the way that Governor Connolly and JFK were sat in the they were, and it's really, really weird. You look at it and you think, my God, that's a good point, that would have had to zigzag. But then if you look at the actual pictures of the guys in the car, it would have been a straight. It's very, very, but then there are so many things. I've always gone with the version that if Lee Harvey Oswald was in the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, why does he not take a shot when Kennedy is coming right towards the building? Why wait until he's turned the corner and on his way away from the building to then take your shot? It makes no sense, because I think they mention it in the JFK movie, if you take a shot when the car's coming towards you, even if they speed up, you can take another couple of shots. So the only reason that it's there is because it's, and as they say in the movie, the triangulation of crossfire. If you've got 2 or 3 shooters, there would have been someone up on there, but there will be some in the grassy knoll, someone up on the bridge.
Right.
It's a perfect shoot to have 3, like, and the fact that people heard 6, 7, maybe 8 shots.
Yeah.
So to be able to stand there, knowing what's going to happen, and like you say, not necessarily look at Kennedy's head being blown off, but look at the grassy knoll, look over at the bridge, look up in those split seconds, and you could tell whether there's somebody there. That would be one thing. I would love if there was some kind of document hidden away somewhere in the
didn't they say at the end of Oliver Stone's movie that they've got these documents that were going to be released in such and such, and it's well gone, and these documents haven't materialized?
Yeah, there are. I think some documents were released, but even then, things on the documents are redacted, so they're all just
Right.
covered.
They're all in Prince Philip's will, so we'll see them in 90 years.
There you go. We all just have to keep ourselves fit, ready. Like,
yeah, because I'm really so worth me staying alive for. I have to tell you guys. Seeing what Prince Philip wrote in his will.
Oh my God!
Probably
I
fuck you.
yeah.
Just
It's gonna
literally.
be
Thanks for all the cash.
Something racist, I suppose.
Yeah, just loads of racist stuff, really.
Exactly. Right, we had a few honorable mentions. Amanda Facer said 1977/78. The best time for me was having fun as a little kid. Plus, Star Wars and Grease were films I'll always remember going to see. Sean Robbins said Kennedy's assassination to see if there really was a second gunman on the grassy knoll. And Peter Wixie said he wants to go back to 1963 to 1989 to be able to watch Doctor Who as they aired. I mean,
because he was behind the sofa for the.
We've spoken about that on a previous podcast. The music to that.
The music.
My God!
Because when I started watching that, it was Tom Baker with his eyes, the massive eyes with the music.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. So that's it. That's our top 10s. Neil, do you want to give all the information out on how people can get hold of us and subscribe and all of that gubbins, please?
Of course I can. So you can find us on all the social medias at toptenpods. That's TOPTEN pods. You can email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods, where you can get rewards such as our episodes super early, bonus episodes, behind the scenes videos, and even a chance to be a guest on your own episode. Get that, guys.
Yeah.
And check out all of our links via the link tree. You can find the link in the show notes. And please come and subscribe and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or subscribe and follow on Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever the hell you get your podcasts from.
Wonderful. Amanda, so what are you working on at the moment? Lots of FOB goodness?
Yes, we've got some live shows coming up for FOB, for Fingers on Buzzers. So I don't know if this will probably, we've probably done it before this comes out, but we've got a show in Soho on the 20th of October with James Harkin as our guest from No Such Thing as a Fish. So if this does go out after that, you can just listen to it and wish you were there. And I also there's a few other shows that I've got coming up. Obviously, Drunk Women Solving Crime. We've got lots of live shows coming up. We've got a couple in Manchester. Got a big Christmas one in Leicester Square Theatre on the 6th of December. There's the ongoing London residency as well at the Museum of Comedy. We do a show there once a month. And there's another podcast that launched in January. It's called Spit or Swallow. It's about drinking, guys. It's about drinking.
Okay, yes.
We've had great guests. We've had Jimmy Carr, Sarah Millican, Tom Allen. We've just telling stories about when they recommend a drink for Sally Ann Hayward and Lou Conran, who were the hosts, to drink along with the guest. And along the way, so they assess the drink, they talk about the drink, but they also dig out some really funny drunk stories from the guests as well. We encourage people that listen to the show to write in with their own drunk stories. It's a bit of catharsis for everybody, but we've got some live shows coming up in London with that as well. Again, the first one is on the 20th of October. Yes, I'm busy that night. I've got 2 shows back to back, and that's with Shazia Mirza. Again, if you weren't there, you can listen to it on the podcast, and we've got 2 more live shows with them coming up after that as well. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. You're making up for all the time you were just at home doing nothing, aren't you?
Yeah, aren't we all? But yeah, I mean, you guys, you've got your live show coming up in November as well. So that's, I think that's exciting / very sad, really, because obviously the end of the year of, the actual fuck, but it's, that's going to be quite an epic night, isn't it?
I hope so. Yeah,
I'm sure it will be.
It should be fun. But it's great that you're And please give our love to Lucy and Jenny.
Yeah,
Always,
please
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And they send it back. I know they do.
Oh,
So yeah.
bless,
Bless them.
bless. So that's it. Thank you very much, Amanda. It's been
Oh,
as
thank you.
lovely to speak to you and to have a chat and have a good old chinwag with you.
It's been lovely. That was such fun. I really enjoyed that.
Oh,
Thank
it
you
was
very
great to
much.
speak
Excellent.
to
Well,
you.
if you ever want to come back and we'll find another top 10 that we can do,
Oh,
we'll do another one.
I rate everything from 1 to 10. So
Well, we'll find something then.
Indeed. So thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pav. Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Amanda.
Thank
And
you.
let's start the countdown.